A long time ago, in a place far, far away, long before music as we know it today, there was this. It is unlike anything we hear today. Such music are known as Gregorian Chants or plain chants, and they were originally used only for religious purposes. No instruments were allowed during such performances too. Wow! But soon people got bored of such music and they began experimenting with more types of music, and people started creating more standardized styles of playing. However, people were still experimenting with the different types of instruments, and some instruments back then could be quite different. Well, during the Baroque period, the piano was not invented yet. Instead, they had a similar instrument called the harpsichord. Whenever you pressed the key, a string would be plucked with a metal hook. It could not play loud and it could not play soft, but it had a unique sound that sounded like this. Well, don't worry, there are no vampires. That was just Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue, written for the harpsichord. Bach was a famous German composer then, and he loved to write music for the harpsichord. He also loved other instruments like the violin, the cello, and the old Baroque flute. And most of all, he loved coffee. He loved coffee so much that he wrote an entire piece of music just for coffee. Well, there were many popular types of music at the time, one of which is called a canon. Well, not that type of canon, but a canon is a special musical piece where different singers or different musicians start playing their parts at different times. You have probably heard of this one before. It's called Canon in D, written by Pachelbel. In fact, some people love the canon so much that somebody wrote a 36-part canon. This means that 36 people are singing different parts at the same time. Eventually, it would sound like this. Quite fascinating, isn't it? At that time, people really loved to visit the opera. It was seen as sort of the movies at the time. There were no microphones, so they had to use really loud voices so that everyone could hear them. Operas were very hard to stage since it incorporated singing with acting and even fashion design. Operas at the time loved to depict stories from Greek or Roman mythologies. They could cover love stories, sad tragedies, or even stories of war, like in modern action movies. Look at those actors' expressions and movements. How exciting. And finally, there were suites, which are short pieces. These pieces were originally meant for people to dance to. Well, this is Bach's first cello suite, another famous piece of his. Well, I'm sure we have learned a lot today, so here's a quick recap. Firstly, the Baroque period is the first main period of Western classical music. Secondly, many instruments we play nowadays come from the Baroque period, such as my violin. And many famous pieces of music we hear nowadays also come from the Baroque period 400 years ago. In the next lesson, we'll show you how music evolved into a new period known as the Classical period. In the meantime, I'll keep playing my violin. See you next time.